Single page apps are great, but one of the drawbacks is that we lose the ability to link people to specific places in our application. However, we can fix this easily by integrating a router in our application. In this lecture, we'll see how to do this with a third-party library called UI Router. I think for the most part, we're probably all pretty familiar with the way that web page linking works. We go to some website and we get there at the main URL, and then if we go to navigate further within the website, we would get a URI segment tacked on to the end of the URL. And then we can navigate deeper within and we get even more URI segments tacked on. And so this is useful because now we can take this exact URL and send it to somebody and they can paste it into their browser and get to that same page that we were just looking at. And this works well for traditional websites or traditional web applications, but things get different when we start using single page apps. And so if we remember back over here in our application, we've got this one single URL that gets loaded, and then whenever we navigate within our site, say if we want to add a new classified, we just get something that pops up here. And also if we want to check out one of these individual listings, maybe the contact on these listings, we're still at this main URL. And so as it stands, there's no real way to send somebody to a specific location within the app. And so let's think about an example of this. Let's say, for instance, we wanted to send somebody a link to edit a specific classified listing. Well, as it stands, there's not really any way to do that. If we went to our admin area for one of these classifieds and we went to edit, all we get is this form showing up here, but the URL stays the same. And so this inability to do any kind of deep linking within our application is actually quite a big problem. But thankfully, we've got some tools to solve it. AngularJS provides a routing API, and this lets us get individual routes within our URL bar for various spots within our application. Now, one thing with the routing API that's built into the framework is that it's a little bit limited. It allows us to show partial views based on where we are in the URL bar, but it doesn't have a lot of features that are really important for a good router. And so several years ago, the AngularJS community came together and built UI Router. So UI Router is a routing framework for Angular, but it's not built by the core team. It's actually built by the community. And it really stands on its own as the superior routing framework. So most Angular applications will actually make use of UI Router instead of the baked-in routing API that Angular provides. And the cool thing about UI Router is that it's designed to provide state-based routing. And so what do we mean by state exactly? Well, if we think again about our traditional round trip kind of website, we know that each link within a website is going to take us to a new individual page. However, when we think about a native desktop type application, which is what we're trying to get to with a single page app, we know that things work differently. And so to think about this, let's take a look at a native app. And it doesn't really matter which specific app, but for example, we'll just look at the Contacts app on the Mac. Now, it could be said that this specific view that we're seeing right now is a state of this Contacts application. And we might call this something like our Contacts view state. And then if we were to do something like edit this contact, well, then we could say that we are in an edit state. And then we could get another state perhaps by going to search, and we could do our search state. And so that's really the difference to highlight between an application for the desktop and a traditional web application. When we think about a traditional web app or website and we talk about moving around within it, we'd be thinking more in terms of pages and different links to get us to those pages. But here within a desktop app, there's really no concept of different pages or different links. Everything is based on states of the application. And so that's kind of the pattern that we need to follow and we need to implement with UI Router so that we can make our single page application state-based but also accessible at different links. And so really what UI Router provides is a way to merge this concept of linking, like we all know and we've always known from the web, to the concept of different states within a single page application. So there's a bit of the background. The next thing we'll do is see how to get up and running with UI Router.